Guys, I know you. I won't be able to say a word after I let you all in, so give me just these couple minutes alone so I'll be able to fire up some takes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the episode 4 of the season 2 of the DNVR Nuggets Serbian Corner. My name is Miroslav. I'm calling from cold Pančevo, Serbia, and I will be joined by an angry pitchfork-carrying mob in a moment. But before that, I just wanted to summarize the trade deadline and player buyout market from the Nuggets perspective. First of all, if you told me a couple of weeks ago Calvin Booth would trade Bones Hyland, Davon Reed, and a second-round pick for Thomas Bryant and Reggie Jackson, I would say that his first season of being a steward to Nikola Jokic's prime years was a complete banger. The Nuggets now have more guys I personally trust in than in any season before, and honestly, it's not close. We have Jamal, KCP, Michael Porter, Gordon, Jokic, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Vlatko, and that's already like your top final 8 for the playoffs. And add to that Reggie Jackson as a much more reliable substitution for Bones Hyland for this season anyway. And I'm really excited to see how he looks like in the Nuggets uniform. And, that's just a figure of speech. I don't really want to see what he looks like. I want to see how he plays for the Nuggets. And also Thomas Bryant, a legit backup 5 that might even play next to Jokic for a pinch. And so far, he looked pretty serviceable for the Nuggets. That makes you as deep as you need to be. And of course, we still have Zeke Naji when he returns from his injury recovery. And I'm not forgetting our veterans, Ish, Jeff, and DeAndre. All of them can be counted on for bench minutes in games when guys in front of them on the pecking order are not available to play. The All-Star game is tomorrow. The 3-point contest tonight will be Nuggetsless. Nobody outside of Nikola Jokic and Nuggets coaching staff is allowed to step on the court during the whole weekend. So the team should use that nobody believes in us energy and crush their opponents when the time comes. A couple of years ago, Adam Mares asked me on his show whether the Serbs and the Nuggets have the same underdog energy, and I brushed it off by saying we are 5-time world champions, so we cannot be underdogs, but I was very wrong. The golden era is now 20 years in the past for Serbian basketball, so Serbians have the same exact energy like Nuggets basketball. Please don't think of us as favorites, and we'll prove you wrong. Okay, that's enough rant from me. Let me call the first guy up. You've seen him often on this show. Too often, to be honest. He is a Nuggets diehard living in the enemy territory in Philadelphia. He's a co-host of the Nuggets podcast called The Dig. And I'm still waiting for the new episode since the last one was published, I think, in December 2020. His name is Jeremy Pauly, but I call him just Jer because, we are close as Brad and Angelina. Whoops. My AI producer tells me that phrase is outdated. We'll work on it. What up, Jer?
Yo.
And sorry.
What's up, Mir? How you doing?
Pretty good.
Ro? I don't know. I'll tell you what. So I was running. The reason I was late to our little pre-chat room, I ran to make an espresso for a little energy. Espresso machine being the last thing I should have, an obnoxious person like me. And the thing making the milk and the thing making the espresso both started falling on me. I lost almost all of my espresso, and I was suddenly taken back to Chris Anderson trying to receive a pass under the basket and the ball just going everywhere. So that's where we're at right now. I'm bringing my Chris Anderson Birdman game to this episode.
And also your Nuggets Serbia t-shirt.
Yes. Still have it. And it's like I have like 6 t-shirts, honestly, that I wear. That's it. So this gets worn all the time.
I meant you wanted to say that you're really smooth and you're always wearing the button-down shirts, so that's why you don't have a lot of t-shirts, but I guess not.
No, it's just because I have zero style, which is why I have this t-shirt in the first place.
Okay. I mentioned Philly, and I have a Super Bowl question for you. But before I ask you, I need to call up another Nuggets diehard, the one that likes making football analogies to basketball games. He is calling from New Orleans. Am I right? A co-host of a Rising Nuggets podcast called Four Corners. His name is Peter Martin, but all of you know him as Buckets since '88. What up, Pete?
What's up, Miroslav? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. So I have the two of you living outside of Denver, and we had the Super Bowl recently. So first of all, a lot of Broncos fans were very hopeful of Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl, just so the hated Kansas City Cardinals, whatever they're called, would lose the game. And I get it for the Broncos fans that don't care for the Nuggets. I know there are plenty of those, but what about the guys who are keyed on the Nuggets and also live in the Embiid land, like Jeremy? So first of all, Jeremy, is your neighborhood intact after the riots? And please describe to me your feelings during the Super Bowl. Now, before you answer, I need you to know that I don't care what either of you guys are going to answer to this, because I don't care about football. But, you know, this is like the icebreaker question before I put all of you into revolving shark teeth that are my questions, and also the KSC front office hiring policy. So, Jeremy.
I'm going to take your ball of being uninterested and just put it right back to you. I care nothing about these Philadelphia teams other than, like you pointed out, my house still being there after they win or lose a game. I'm a 49ers fan, and not that you would know this, but the game before the Super Bowl, the 49ers were down to their third-string quarterback, and then they got down to their fourth-string quarterback, and then he even went out. So it was like the worst football game of all time. Definitely the last one for you to watch if you ever want to try it. So I cared nothing about this Philadelphia stuff.
What about you, Peter? What were your feelings about the Super Bowl game?
Yeah, I watched the last 5 minutes, but I wasn't really that into it either. I don't like either team. Honestly, like NFL it's okay, but I'm way more into college. So yeah.
Okay. Not very impressed by Super Bowl, just like I am, and that's very fine for me. Okay, it is time to bring in one more diehard, a guy who hasn't appeared on any podcast for way too long, the only guy actually currently living in Colorado in today's show. He is the other co-host of The Dig, world champion in Nuggets Haiku, and also the writer of the only Nuggets mockumentary so far called Breaking Basketball, and his name is Nick Herzog. What's crack-a-lacking, Nick?
What's up, buddy? It's good to be back on with you. We've been trying to make it happen for a while now. I got sick on the last one. I don't think it was COVID, but it was. So I got, and I was gonna try to power through, and of course I got like laryngitis, like the one thing I couldn't like work around. So I apologize for that. It's been a few months in the making, but it's good to be back on.
I can see you're in your bed cave now.
Yeah, I got a new studio kind of in the works down here. It's still kind of in pieces a little bit, but it's a good nerd cave.
Okay. We have a bunch of stuff to cover today, so I want to keep the things rolling fast. So let me start with Peter. Knowing the CBA rules, you know how it works, the limitations of contracts and trades and everything. When you compare the Nuggets roster at the end of last season and how they look right now, could you realistically expect Nuggets roster to be better today than it actually is? And I only mean about the roster construction, not like the X's and O's.
I don't really think so. I mean, but basketball, there's only 5 guys on the court, so one player can really swing things a lot. I was pretty nervous on like day 2 of the offseason. But then once we signed Bruce Brown, that completely shifted it for me. So I think, that was a home run hire. We don't really know everything going on behind the scenes until it gets announced to us. So maybe the Nuggets were always confident they were going to get Bruce Brown. But yeah, I think it worked out. I think the offseason was a home run in terms of fitting what we could fit in with the resources we had available.
Does anybody else want to provide a different perspective?
You're talking about specifically like the off season, or are you talking about total team construction?
Off season plus the trade deadline and the buyout.
Yeah.
So the final form for this season compared to the end of last season.
I mean, I have to give him strong credit, but just for sake of conversation, the Reggie Jackson move, what I was really hoping for in that last piece was somebody with a bit more of kind of ball hawkishness, the ability to shoot over 38% or whatever Reggie Jackson shoots. So I like the name that I saw that I really wanted was Terrence Ross. That's a guy that can really get going on his own. For second bench player, he's a guy who can really string along some points when you need it.
So you really miss Will Barton then?
Oh, you wanted Barton back.
Dude,
Oh.
he's a savvy mofo. He's got some moves. No, really, I love Barton. I hate him, but I love him.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, and I'd be fine with him as the 12th guy on the bench, a glue guy or something. He's still got some game left. He probably help somebody out, but no. Overall, like I'll take the roster as constructed over anybody in the NBA right now. I think. So it's hard for me. Like we could reimagine some things going a little bit differently or make a tweak here or there. It's hard to know what the Nuggets options really even were, especially like within the buyout market. That's going to be a lot on what the player, wants. And they have more power there. It's not like you can sort of force a trade through. So I think they did well. Overall, I know Nuggets fans were disappointed with some of the big moves that were made, but I think personally that was mostly because so many teams in the West got better. Significantly so in some cases, and so it kind of felt like maybe this window that felt wide open maybe has narrowed. But when I look at the roster, I still prefer the Nuggets. I think at least in the starting five.
A month ago, I said the West is trash because I don't remember when the East was so much so much better, on the top comparing to the West. Like in the last 20 years, I don't remember when it happened the last time. But then you get, just a couple of all-stars from the East coming to the West, and the things are just, what we're used to. I saw an interesting tweet from Jordan Scott, my buddy, on Twitter. He said that the tweet on Twitter, that's really smooth for me. So he said that Nuggets should try to sign Kevin Love in the off-season if he wants to play for a minimum contract. Does anybody of you, have the any feelings about it? I know we're jumping ahead too far. We need to speak about this season, but it's just a random thought.
I wouldn't.
I'm not interested, really. Yeah.
I would say
defense.
He doesn't fit. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think you need defensive guys. I mean, we got enough offense, so Love's a good rebounder, but he fell out of the rotation in the Cavs because he couldn't really make an impact anymore. So I think his best days are behind him. It'd be like signing Millsap that last year, but he's a different player than Millsap even. So guys that can't defend don't age well.
Okay. No, not even for a bench guy playing for a minimum, like instead of DeAndre Jordan.
Well, sure, if that's the alternative option.
Yeah, he's like another Jeff Green or something. I don't know.
The Nuggets right now have 3 players playing the 5, which is pretty rare these days. But I guess it's what was possible to happen at the end. But I have to say I'm happy with DeAndre Jordan being still on the roster. He seems like a great guy, and when you're approaching the playoffs, you don't really care about the 14th or the 15th spot on the roster, so it's quite fine.
Or the 9th.
Yeah, he doesn't fit a need. I'd say there's still some talent there, and especially when you're talking about the bench, it's really hard to piece together like perfect chemistry there. That's more about your starting 5. So I'm not against it, but that's not doing anything.
Yeah, if it was a vet minimum or something, I feel like a player like Kevin Love, though, probably some bad team overpays for him or something, and it just wouldn't make sense for the Nuggets. But
he should hire, Gordon Hayward's agent, because he kind of finds a way to get a lot of money for his, old and used up players. So it's just a free advice to Kevin Love. I like that guy. Okay, Nick.
yeah,
I have a philosophical question for you.
mm-hmm.
So, should the Nuggets, and I already spoke about this several times, and I spoke to Jeremy about it, and he doesn't have the right to answer now because he already did, I think, last time he was here. So, should the Nuggets even have bench minutes? Or should we just call those non-Jokic minutes? What do you think when playoffs comes, like staggering all 4 starters with Jokic and just play like either Vlatko as a mini-me version of Jokic or Thomas Bryant with the starters when Jokic sits?
Yeah, it's
like 8 minutes in the playoffs.
And then so is the idea then that you would have, when you put Jokic back on, he would be on with 4 bench guys?
He would actually be with 4 bench guys for the 3 or 4 minutes in the middle of first quarter, and then he will sub out, before the end of first quarter, and the starters would come back, something like that.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'm wondering, maybe that's a bit extreme though. If you put Murray, there could be a scenario where you could keep Murray and MPJ together, maybe with 3 bench guys, and then you're only going 8 deep, which I feel pretty comfortable with. 9 deep with Bryant. I really like Bryant's game. I don't know if Nuggets fans may have not watched a lot of him yet, but he was really productive for the Lakers for a while while AD was hurt on his yearly month off.
He's had like a 10 game stretch averaging 20 and 12 or something.
Yeah,
like
he was really productive. And so I think we could get something there. His game is different than Joker's. Obviously, everybody's game is different than Joker's. So you can't really replicate that style. And that's, I think, always going to be the problem here. If you're trying to play Jokic ball when he's not on the floor. I don't know that that's really doable. But I think they're going to have to get creative, though. It can't be like a hockey line change where you just bring in the bench, by itself as currently constructed. There's going to have to be some kind of a continued, you have to keep weaving Murray or MPJ in with those guys to get some more scoring.
How about you, Pete? Do you have a
I think it completely depends on the matchup. I like the idea against some of the deeper teams. If you're talking about Memphis or the Clippers, I think that could make a lot of sense. But if you're playing a team like the Lakers or Suns or even the Mavericks, I'm not really that worried about our bench against those teams, because those teams don't really have good benches either. So I think you kind of have to, they always say game 1 is a feel out game. I think we'll learn a lot about how Moch is going to do the lineups after game 1 of the series.
Jeremy, I will allow you to answer this again.
Every minute played by every team in the NBA without Jokic is a non-Jokic minute. That's where the NBA is at. It's Jokic or it's nothing.
That's deep. That's deep.
You wanted a philosophical answer, man.
It's very Hegelian of you.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said it's very Hegelian of you.
Oh my God.
Okay, this is the moment I would like to take a couple of minutes to talk about the Bones Hyland saga. And I will give you only 1 sentence about it. I will let you guys give your thoughts. I just wish all the best to Bones in his future career in the NBA or elsewhere. So who wants to tackle the story that actually divided the Nuggets nation?
Glad it's over. That's my sense.
Yeah.
We get 1 sentence?
No.
Oh.
You can have how many you want.
Let me
I only
whip up a
had one.
haiku real quick. Bones, I mean, he's a terrible defender, which is always going to be a problem on a Mike Malone team, right? Just in terms of even him ever being happy with his game or trusting him. So he's, there's these guys like, at Westbrook is probably the pinnacle of this. The guys who just have flawed games, but people just like their attitude and they bring this kind of like X factor into games that can be really valuable. But I just think in his case, he's not Westbrook. He's not that talented. Maybe a little bit better shooter, which isn't hard. I'm a better shooter than Westbrook, but it's just not worth it. I think on this team right now. Like I think he's probably going to do better. I don't even know if he'll survive on the Clippers. Really, he probably will get buried on the bench and he'll end up jumping around to a few teams. He needs to be on like a rebuilding team where he can kind of figure out some stuff. I think
he might be
reliable.
He might be behind Westbrook really soon.
That's a good point. Yeah. Maybe they can swap some tips or something on how to like if you put them together, you'd have like a pretty good boneheaded player, like moderately boneheaded.
Yeah, I mean, you could compare his case to Yusuf Nurkic. I like to compare it more to Jeremy Grant, who decided to bet on himself and play somewhere with a bigger role. And it worked fine for Jeremy, money-wise. He's earned another big contract after the one he got from lousy Detroit. He chose, instead of the actual contender in Denver Nuggets. So, yeah, good for him. I mean, I'm really not too sad about losing a guy who is just not on the same timeline like the team, I guess.
Are you taking the Jeremy Grant perspective because you just want to be positive, or is there more to the story that we don't know about?
No, I mean the story is completely finished for me. I wanted closure, and nothing is as clean as losing a guy in the off season when he just leaves. Mm-hmm. It's a bit messier when you need to do the trade and get something back from the other team and so on and so forth. But yeah, I actually had some feelings about Bones like a month or maybe even 2 months before the trade actually happened. So I am glad that all of us should be happy right now, Bones and the Nuggets, I guess.
Yeah, fair. I think if you look at the history of championship teams, outside obviously you got to have talent, but outside of that, I think they all have adults in the room, and so I hope that isn't too disrespectful to say, but Bones just isn't as mature as the rest of the guys on the team right now. And I'm not saying he can't get there, but the time just didn't add up, and so it wasn't the right place and the right time for him right now.
Okay, this is the last time I will mention Bone Hyland's name on this show. I don't want any residues from that. Okay, Jeremy, which Nuggets player do you want the most to explode in the last third of the season and the playoffs comparing to what we've seen so far? So which game do you want to be elevated the most so the Nuggets could get the most benefit from that? And plus, tell me about your feelings about playoff matchups versus serious teams like Suns, Grizzlies, or Warriors. I'm not including the Clippers there. Sorry.
There was a very, 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 very obvious answer to this question of who needs to step up the most or catch fire to the end of the season. Very obvious answer to that question up until about a week ago. And it's the guy you just said you don't want to hear anything about. Bones Hyland was the one who obviously I think needed to catch the most fire to I think carry us forward. That's now over with. I can't imagine anybody in our top 5 needing it. Our starters, I'll take them against anybody. So I'm looking for the bench, again, the non-Jokic minutes, to see the biggest improvement. At this point, I don't even want to give it to any of the new guys, Reggie Jackson, Thomas Bryant. And now at this point with the bench, it's kind of hard to see some of the roles on these guys. Christian Brown, Chanchar, Jeff Green, even, like, who knows how many minutes these guys are going to be getting. So I'm not going to pick any of them. To me, it's going to be Downtown Brown. Because that guy now at this point, he kind of feels like the bridge between the starters and the bench. He works really well with the starters. And then we've just seen him totally pop off and get hot from the 3-point line. I think that could be really useful playing next to Reggie Jackson or playing next to Jamal Murray, which seems to be the go-to Malone strategy for the bench. And actually, come to think of it, Reggie Jackson is kind of like a mini Jamal Murray anyway, kind of like that 2-guard kind of a thing. So Brown can either get hot as like playing as a 2 next to one of these guys and shooting the 3, or he can also dish it out himself and give them a little pop, Reggie Jackson and Jamal Murray. So I'm really excited to see if that guy gets hot. I think it really opens up a lot with our bench because he'll always be playing next to another playmaker in Reggie Jackson or Jamal Murray, and that just creates it opens up the floor a lot more. It's not just one guy getting it done like we saw with Bones Hyland, just like driving to the hoop and then flying into the basket. It's actual mature offense with the ball popping around, as we know in Denver. So that's what I'm most excited for. I really hope that we see that.
Peter?
Nothing major, really. I feel like most guys have settled into their role, but I would like to see MPJ to continue to be aggressive because I think we've seen in the last month as his athleticism has started to come back, he's starting to get more dunks, attacking the basket more. So that's just another little wrinkle that they can add in the offense. I mean, even if he didn't do it, he was still a good player. But if he's able to get to the rim more and get more easy baskets, get more free throws, that's just going to help the offense even more.
I have to say, sorry, I just want to hop on this, what Peter said. Interesting, if you speak to the Serbian Nuggets fans that don't watch every game, that are not as connected as the other guys are, they will still tell you that Michael Porter is not a team player, he is not a smart, high IQ player and stuff like that, because they're not watching what was happening recently. And the buy-in he is showing lately is just mesmerizing for me. I'm so loving that, and I'm really impressed. The thing is, I think if this guy was just able to play for the last 5 years continuously, he would be like, I don't know what the level of player he would be right now. Mm-hmm. It's just that he was stopped in his formative years and he couldn't build on it because he was waiting for prolonged periods of time. And now he's catching on. And yes, I think he's still, behind that age 24, 25, whatever he is right now, a level he should be based on his talent. But you know what? I'm grabbing onto whatever we get from him, and I'm really impressed with his buy-in. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're cruising right now, right? So, like, I think what is more of the risk is somebody imploding than needing somebody to explode, right? Like, can KCP keep shooting 48% or whatever from 3 the rest of the season?
Yes.
I think he can too, right? But like, what happens for a month if he goes cold and then MPJ's like, out with a sore back, and those are the kinds of things I'm more concerned about, I think, than really rooting for some player who's been struggling or something to get rolling. Like they are rolling. I mean, that Dallas game they coasted. That was not even a difficult challenge for them. Jokic didn't have to score. He was distributing, and Murray's wasn't even playing. So not to say that it's going to be a cakewalk through the playoffs. I'm not saying that, but like things are going well. They're gelling. Everybody's kind of in their role right now. So I think if they can keep that going, if we can avoid any like disastrous injuries, which is obviously just a random thing we can't control for, but that combined with anybody taking a step backward, having a cold spell, any of these shooters really slumping or something like that, I think that's probably what we're hoping for.
Yeah, I just wanted to get one more comment in here. When Jeremy mentioned Christian Brown, I was thinking about the bench lineup of Reggie Jackson, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Vlatko Čančar, and Nikola Jokic. I feel like those four could be like pretty good Jokic players, from pretty good to really great Jokic players. And if Reggie Jackson would be good enough on defense, that could be a really, really good matchup for any bench in the playoffs. I'm just not sure about that part. I need to see Reggie play to see if it's really viable in 2023, because he was like a master of playoffs just a couple of years ago for the Clippers.
Yeah, he seems like a guy who it seems like he turns it on and then he turns it off. So it didn't seem like he had it on earlier this season. We'll see if he's able to do that again. Yeah, I mean that could be a great lineup. But then again, that's Jokic. Like I was wondering where you were going with that, and then you ended it with Jokic. It's kind of like a cheat button.
It is. But
cheat code.
There are some kind of guys you don't want to waste Jokic's minutes with. So I'm pretty fine with all of these guys I mentioned. I mean, Reggie Jackson is still an open book. I don't know how it will look like, but I have a feeling it could be pretty good.
Miroslav, I just want to make a quick comment on Reggie Jackson. I think that, he wasn't really that good on defense this year, but I don't expect him to be great. But I think when you're a veteran and you've been in the NBA that long, he at least knows where to be. So there's going to be some times where he gets picked on or where he gets beat, but it's never going to be for a lack of trying or just like not paying attention. And I think sometimes when Bones would mess up on defense, it's kind of one of those backbreaking plays where the other guys are looking at him like, man, what the hell is this guy doing? And I don't think that's going to happen with Reggie. So it's not always just that a team scored 2 points. How they scored really can affect team morale and togetherness. And the fact that Bones isn't there to make those plays anymore just helps the overall team chemistry, I think.
Now I know why you brought Peter on. You need someone who actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, I kind of did. I needed at least one level-headed guy on the panel, so that was the reasoning for me.
No, it's a great point though. Like the bench needs to not lose games for us, right? Like you don't need the bench to win games. We need the bench to not lose games. I think, right? I mean, right. I guess it can depend on the game, but too often I think the bench has just been a black hole for this team. Where I think you can upgrade by just, maybe you take away a little explosiveness, a little firepower with Bones, but it could be overall should be an upgrade just to not lose games.
I do have a quick stat that I forgot to mention that Nick just segued to. Out of 25 5-man lineups over 20 minutes played, this is a question for everybody. 10 of those have a negative net rating. How many of those do you think Bones was a part of? Miroslav, we'll start with you.
Oh, it's a math question, actually. 10 in the negative. So, like 10?
Yeah. All of them was my answer also.
Yeah. All right, we can just skip everybody. Yeah, he was in 5 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And he had three in the positive, but 5 in the negative. So, Nick, I think that just totally hammers home your point. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's some firepower that we take out of there, but I think there's an obvious theme to our net rating that can definitely be improved. And maybe Reggie Jackson's the right guy for it.
Okay, this is a good place to make a short commercial break. And we are back. Peter, do you think the Nuggets are significantly more capable of defending spread pick and roll comparing to 2 years ago when CP3 destroyed us by shooting 110% from the free throw range? Or do you think it is the offensive firepower that should give us, most of our extra confidence come playoff time?
Oh, I'm much more confident in the defense now. I mean, we started off the season kind of rough. I think the players all talked about it, just having so many new players trying to build the chemistry. But I did pull up some stats. So Nuggets are currently have a defensive rating of 114, which is 15th in the league, so right in the middle. But we all know they started off so poorly. I think they were in the mid or even the late 20s. So they've been a top 12, top 10 defense, basically since Christmas. Looking at 538, they got a stat called Raptor War, so wins above replacement. The only negative player on the whole team that's getting rotation minutes was Christian Brown, and we think of him as a defender. The worst net rating was Bones Hyland at minus 8.4, and his defensive rating is even worse. It was 119. The next closest worst on the team is Jeff Green and DeAndre, both at 115. And DeAndre's cut out of the rotation now. And Jeff, it looks like we don't know. It seems like, I think from what we've heard is maybe Moach already talked to him and said, Vlaco's ahead of you now. So there's probably going to be games where maybe Jeff Green doesn't even get run. So I think just cutting out the fat, right? Just losing Bones Hyland, unfortunately, is kind of addition by subtraction on defense. And this might surprise you guys. The next worst defender from defensive rating was actually Bruce Brown from the guys that get minutes, and then Christian Brown, and then Jamal. Everybody else was under 112 defensive rating, so actually pretty good. And this, seeing all the defensive stats kind of made me realize two big things. Number one, Michael Porter has come a long way. I'm not going to say he's a lockdown guy, but where he was 2 years ago in that Sun series, they were just picking on him the whole time. And then now I can't forget that Christmas game this year where Chris Paul is trying to score on him and he can't shake him. And not only can he not shake him, but if you remember, he had that one play where Chris Paul literally went up to shoot and then halfway realized, oh crap, I can't get this off. I have to pass it out. You almost never see NBA players do that. That's embarrassing, and that's he didn't expect Michael Porter to be there with him. And then the other thing that kind of made me realize is, the numbers of the guys who had good defensive and good and bad defensive numbers is I still don't think the rest of the NBA has caught on to how good Jokic is. He's not a, rim protector, shot blocker type, but he's such a good defender in other areas that are less loud that I think Porter being next to him and other starters being next to him helps their numbers. Whereas Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, and Jamal, they play a lot more with the bench, right? So their numbers aren't as good. And that's just the interesting things I noticed.
Yeah, just to piggyback on the MPJ point, I think he's really learned how to use his length a lot more. He's never going to be super quick and keep up with guys or keep them in front of him, but I think he's really learning how to use that length that he has on the wing.
He's not quick, but he is fast because he has a very, very long, steps he makes. So he can catch up guys from behind really, really solidly.
And
he's starting to process the game better too.
I think credit to the coaching staff, as much as fans of the Nuggets or pretty much any NBA team hate to do it. Credit to the coaching staff to not only work with these people and improve their positioning and things like that, but also to put them in the right situation to leverage their abilities. As Nick mentioned, his length, I think they're doing a good job of that. And then likewise with Peter's stats, I think at Christian Brown, if you watch him play, he's a good defender. So when you start looking at these things like the negative net rating or the defensive rating, look at who he was playing next to. His minutes came next to Bones. That's a unit that just you take order and then it just spills out like a glass, like my espresso earlier. You don't have that in there. And so by maybe bringing in a Reggie Jackson or something like that, who knows how to play the position better, that might just kind of add something to it. And Christian Brown's defensive stats might go up as a result.
Yeah. If I can piggyback on that real quick, the comparison you made about most of his minutes being next to Bones, it's like in football. If you have one, defensive lineman that isn't getting any push, they're just going to keep running the ball right past that guy. If there's a linebacker who can't tackle, you're going to attack him until you make him take him off field. Basketball is even worse because it's 5-on-5. So literally you're 20% of the defense. And if you can't guard anybody, they're just going to keep attacking you over again. So by taking Bones out, though, everybody else's defensive numbers should be better.
Yeah, the linebackers are the worst.
Can we get a vote for whether we like football analogies better or espresso analogies? I want to see a little competition here.
That's fair. I wanted to piggyback on what Nick said about Michael Porter using his length really, really well this season. There's that joke from The Simpsons when Homer Simpson speaks to his father Abraham, and he says, "Dad, you were never proud of me." And he said, "No, that's not true. I was always proud for you not being a short person." So MPJ was always really, really good at being 6'10" with a ratchet, and now he knows what he's actually doing on the court, and that's just amazing. I'm really happy with his development. Okay, next subject. Nick.
Sir.
If we ever get the episode 3 of the Breaking Basketball, and just for the people that haven't listened to it, it was a documentary style Nuggets story about the events that haven't happened yet. And if we were to prepare ourselves for the 3rd championship parade in June 2025, what would be the main headline describing that three-peat team? I mean, the Spurs had the beautiful game, the Warriors had the unstoppable offense, the Lakers had the 1-2 punch that was unmatched. The Bulls, had Michael and Pippen, who were maybe the best defensive duo of all time, on top of MJ being the GOAT. What would be the undeniable strength of this Nugget team going forward that would result in a dynasty? And by the way, the old soap opera Dynasty with John Forsythe and John Collins, that was the only reason former Yugoslavia heard of Denver before Nikola Jokic. I just want to make this clear. So what would be the main thing about that team?
Yeah,
if they would become a dynasty.
Something I don't have a great witty phrase here yet. Maybe I'll think of one as I'm talking, but something like the beautiful game I think is more what we're looking at here. I think it's a style of team basketball at passing and where the sum is greater than the pieces, right? So Jokic is a phenomenal talent, but he's not a phenomenal talent in the way that, I don't know, Dame Lillard is or something. He's not a guy that just takes over a game by himself and even maybe Shaq would be a good player to compare him to for what he's not, right? He's not going to score 45 by just dunking in the paint over and over and over again on teams, just beating them down. That can work. I mean, it's worked in the past, but that's not what makes him great, and that's not the style that works for this team. And the team is very much now built to maximize that style. And I think the Dallas game was a great example of where, you look at Jokic's numbers. We had a triple-double again, but that was a comfortable game for him. It was just passing, letting other guys do the scoring. He doesn't have the need to be the go-to guy on every play. And somebody like Jordan just wasn't that. Jordan had to be the guy, right? And he had to be the one taking the game-winning shot. And that worked. If you have Jordan, then you build around that. But I think for the Nuggets, it really is, something about the dynamic of the sum being greater than the individual pieces.
Beautiful
Anybody
game.
else?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
I like that. You gonna go give that to Bill Simmons and stab me in the back?
Yeah, this was a very inside
what you
joke.
don't realize, Miroslav, is
Nobody
that,
outside of me understood this joke.
Episode 3. It was planned to not have an episode 3. You see, that was all part of the original idea. It was part of the mockumentary, because it all broke apart in episode 2. So you guys can all go back and listen to that if you're really bored.
Yeah, just go back to Denver Steve's podcast channel and just browse the Dig episodes and you'll find it.
Yeah.
I kind of think that they could get away with winning 3 championships and still have only one All-Star player.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could imagine them having, like, you have Jokic now with 25 points, Jamal with 20, Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter with 17, and you don't get to be the All-Star with 17 points per game, but you don't need more than that. If you add up all of those huge point totals, you will just get the best offense ever. So
I mean, if they start winning championships, Murray will he'll start being respected the way that like Tony Parker was on the Spurs or something, like where you look at his numbers in some of the years that he went to the All-Star game. They weren't like, outstanding numbers, but his game was respected to the point that players were willing to put him in.
In the French accent.
The right, yeah. And the wife, the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the reputation matters a lot, because if I think back to 2015, I'm pretty sure Steph and David Lee were the only All-Stars on the Warriors. And David Lee was benched for Draymond by then. So I don't think people really caught on to how good Draymond and Clay were until they won the whole championship. So I think it's kind of the similar effect of the Nuggets. They have to win, and then they'll start to get more respect.
And they're not on the coasts, so you're just never going to have 4 All-Stars.
I would so love for the Warriors to trade Draymond to Houston and see how good he is over there. Imagine
he would punch
Draymond.
Those guys too.
He would. I just want to put him in a non-ideal, circumstance, just to see how good he actually can be. I mean, he might be really good.
I think he'll end up getting overpaid by the Pistons, coming home, and they want to grow up.
Yeah, I'm really not sure they will be able to retain him for next season. There are some rumblings about that over there. Okay, I don't care about the Warriors, at least not yet. Jeremy, what would be the easiest and what would be the most satisfying path to the championship in these playoffs? So pick the ideally easy schedule for the Nuggets, and then give me what would give you the most oomph from the.
I'm gonna. That's too much for me, man. I'm just gonna smash them together. All right.
Okay.
So the first part of that would be, let's assume we're gonna be first, right? So that we're talking about the 8th seed. We're talking about somebody in the play-in tournament. That's something like, right now the Thunder, Jazz, Trailblazers, Lakers are all the ones kind of fighting for that. Warriors in there too. So it's just kind of like all those teams for the most part they're all awful in their own way. The Warriors, I think, are the one team that a lot of people would want us to avoid. And that's exactly why I want to play them. That's my road. There's like a certain poetry to it. Going back to Peter mentioned 2015, wasn't it like 2013 when the Nuggets had their best season record ever, and then all of a sudden these no-name Golden State Warriors killed us, went on to start their decade of dominance in the NBA.
I feel like we were at the game, Jeremy, where it really broke open, where it was like it was the 3 parade game. It just broke our life.
Because they won the first one, and then the second one, I think, is the one that we went to. And I get crap because I was actually cheering for Stephen Curry because I loved him in college. And I was like, oh, these Warriors are going to be destroyed anyway. Like, let's cheer on the Stephen game. And then all of a sudden, I looked like an idiot. But so, yeah, I want some poetry here. Like, sports is all about, like, bathing in the blood of your enemies. Like, I want the Warriors. I want that to be our path. It would be very poetic for us to go in there and be the ones who ended their reign in the NBA only to start our own. So give me the Warriors in the first round. Let's kill them. From there, actually, things do look pretty good for us in the number 1 spot, because the Suns and the Grizzlies are pretty much locked in at 2 and 3, I think, which means we have the Kings, Mavs, or Clippers, probably that we would end up in the second round. And I mean, I guess we could start with the lowest talent group, I think, is the Kings. So I would love to have them. The Mavs, I think we match up actually probably better than any team in the NBA. We are them, just like better at every step of the way. And then the Clippers, like we've got a good history, obviously, there with beating them, but they also had the most talent, and we are just all kind of humans. As much as we want to say, oh, we've got the Clippers numbered, these are games that still have to be played out. It's not a computer simulation, and so I just much rather have the Kings in that matchup. So give me the Warriors and then the Kings. And then from there, I would really hope that we got the Grizzlies, because if the Suns are our Western Conference matchup, that means that they were healthy. Like, that's what we're kind of looking for is are they going to be healthy or not? And if they are healthy, then God save us from that group of talent. And if they're there in the Western Conference Finals, then that means that they probably are healthy. So that's my path: Warriors, Kings, Grizzlies.
Okay.
So Peter, you probably remember this. If you're a Broncos fan, right?
Yeah.
So when the Broncos were on their Super Bowl runs, the first one they went on, they were like 12-4 that year, I think. They ended up playing 3 of the 4 teams that beat them in their run to the Super Bowl that year, and so it became known as the Revenge Tour, and that became like the thing for for their playoff run, right? Like, that was, people had hats and shirts and stuff that said like Revenge Tour or whatever, like by the time they got to the championship game. I kind of like that idea for a Nuggets run, something that kind of like gels the mission. I don't know, or like whatever. Like, so if it played out that way, Lakers, Warriors, Suns, 3 teams that have all like given us fits over the years, right? Like, I think that could be a fun. It would be a challenge. Obviously, there's easier paths for sure, like Jeremy just laid out. But if you're gonna play one of the if you're gonna get to the finals and win it, which is what we all are hoping for, you're gonna have to be playing darn good basketball, because the East is loaded, like we were talking about earlier. So why not? Like, why not just go through the gauntlet and get ready for that?
What about you, Pete? You have some preferences?
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite. Like, I think it's cool and all. It'd be a great story to beat all the teams we hate, but give me Blazers or Thunder in round 1. I always want to play the teams that are going to have the least amount of opposing fans in Ball Arena. So give me Blazers or OKC in round 1. Give me Kings in round 2, and then give me Memphis in game 3. I really don't care if the rest of the country is watching or not. I just want the Nuggets to win.
That's really fair. That's really fair. Do you have a preference between the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks at the finals, and do you maybe think there's a third team that could get out of the East?
I would rather play the Bucks, because I think that Giannis in the high level moments kind of gets tunnel vision, and I think we've proven that we're pretty good at making it hard for him. He's still going to get his numbers, but I'm just not sure that he's able to help his teammates as good as Jokic, obviously. But I just think the Celtics are a much more balanced team. I think they're harder to figure out. I think that would be a heavyweight fight where it'd be really close, but I kind of feel like the Bucks are a little more solvable than the Celtics.
No love for the 76ers then.
Well, I mean, Embiid's just going to get tired in like round 2, so I'm not really worried about him.
No, he won't even make it. He can get through a second round series.
He first needs to get out of the.
Well, my dream scenario is that the Sixers get the Heat in round 1. I mean, the Heat, they always have like a really great punch for whoever they're playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel better if the Sixers made it to the finals. I don't love that matchup for the Nuggets, honestly. I think I'd rather have the Bucks or the Celtics. I don't know why. It's just a gut feeling at this point, but
it would be fitting, just to the Heat comment, for Jimmy Butler to put an end to Embiid's playoff run.
Yeah, that'd be
or the whole Sixers team.
Yeah, just one thought. We mentioned the Dallas Mavericks and Luka, and I love Luka because he's part Serbian. I really like the part of his game that is the beautiful game that's very similar to what Nikola Jokic does. But on the other hand, there are like those 20 possessions when he just fires away from 40 feet for no good reason at all, and I would be devastated to have to cheer for that every night during the year. That would be exhausting. So thank you, Nicola, for being there. That's such a relief.
And I can't cheer for any team with Kyrie Irving on it, obviously. So
the big stabilizer for the Nuggets.
Well, you won't have to worry about cheering for the Mavericks because he's going to end up in some sort of weird protest or
that's
something.
Right. Yeah. When the day he's going to actually come onto the court wearing a swastika one day, and the NBA is just going to be like, no, we're good.
I'm a little worried about Kyrie. I don't know if he's got enough vegan options in Dallas, Texas.
I think we have the start to season 3 of Breaking Basketball here.
You see? The protest would be against the Dallas Mavericks chefs because they're not doing the right job.
Can you imagine living in Dallas and just being like, no, I'm good on barbecue. I'm not going to eat any.
It's literally the only reason to go to Texas.
Okay. So let's get back to reality. We are in the middle of the All-Star weekend, and I promised to the people the pitchforks. So in a couple of hours, there's going to be the 3-point contest at the All-Star weekend with no participants from NBA's top 3-point shooting team, which is, by the way, running away with the 1 seed in the West. KCP and MPJ are both deserving of the chance to be there, and frankly, Jamal too, because of the bigger, star power, even though his percentages are not as high as of those two. So use this space to express your feelings toward the NBA as an organization and their ways of giving honors to its best teams. Whoever wants to start.
I'll be right back.
That was too much, I guess.
Nick is really an artist. Yeah. Should we all just leave in unified protest?
He's got the fist.
Yeah, Nick, you have to explain what you're doing to anybody listening.
That was the Hulk fist. Burn it all down. It's absolutely a joke. Julius Randle is in the 3-point competition. Did I hear that correctly this week?
Yeah, I think he's the injury replacement, and they actually called KCP as an injury replacement, and he said, "F you, I'm off to Cabo." So
good for him.
So yeah,
but
Julius Randle,
126th or something in the NBA in 3-point percentage. I think I heard Julius Randle is. This is an absolute joke.
I have to watch the 3-point
NBA...
shootout right now because of him.
Yeah,
because I expect like Antoine Walker level of awfulness.
Right, it's gonna be
him.
Yeah, he's gonna make like 1. The NBA apparently gave the reason that KCP isn't a volume 3-point shooter, which I don't care enough to go back and look, but I bet if we went back through the history of the 3-point competition, there have been a ton of guys who are not volume 3-point shooters, right?
Imagine in the 80s, nobody shot more than 2 3-pointers per game anyway.
Yeah. So we know it's entirely about ratings.
Like Craig Hodges is a 3-time 3-point shooting champion, and he probably never shot more than 3 3-pointers per game.
Yeah. Yep.
So he sucked. Jeremy.
As I listen to other podcasts and everything, and I have never been more bored of this week of podcasts because the All-Star game is so awful.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really like your idea of maybe they realized that they were kind of falling short, and so they just took it the other way. Let's get reins out of how pure awful this can be. Like a train wreck. And I'm picturing Julius Randle just knocking these off the back of the backboard, and the entire stadium just silent in horror as they watch one after the other. I would watch that. That's going to be the closest thing to bring me to watching the All-Star games is by shocking me
Dude.
with just how bad it is.
You're onto something here. Saturday night should be the worst players in the NBA.
No, they are in the dunk competition.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Great point. Yeah, great point. No, but like the anti All-Star game, the like you can only even be eligible if you have had like 5 like did not plays in the season or something. Have it like and maybe you put them against like the WNBA All-Star team or something. I don't know. We could come up with something.
Peter, are you mad about this? Are you glad for this, or are you just don't care about it?
Yeah, I'm actually in the minority here. I'm not really upset about it at all. I do feel bad for Gordon and Murray and KCP that they got slighted, but I kind of look at this as like, hey, it's motivation. The league doesn't respect you. The league doesn't want to showcase you. That. But I'm used to this. Like they've been doing this to the Nuggets for years, so I wasn't surprised. I just hope that they can use it for motivation. And if we raise a banner in the summer, nobody's going to remember this.
Do you think that San Antonio Spurs, after winning 5 championships, got any more attention comparing to what they used to before?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Really.
The big question back then was like, oh, they're a small market team that's doing well, and a lot of people were kind of questioning the NBA's lack of respect for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
And they won 5.
Miroslav,
5.
When I feel like I remember the first big time that the Spurs were a national conversation, they had a national TV game in Miami, and Popovich and Duncan and probably home like the night before because it was like a 5-game road trip and it was back-to-back. He's like, you guys aren't playing. And it was a huge deal and they got fined. And this was like, they were like the inventors of don't play guys on back-to-back. So as much as fans complain about the NBA now, the Spurs actually kind of started doing this first.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true. Yeah. Maybe they were just sick of
worked.
nobody talking about him. So they said, F you. So like, we'll just do our thing and we'll win a couple more championships, I guess. I used to be a huge fan of David Robinson, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, I loved his game. And I'm not sure I would love it, the same way like I did when I was a kid. Because, I loved the dunks and I loved everything he was able to do on the court.
He's the Admiral.
Yeah, he was a pretty old rookie. He was like 25 when he came to the league. So he was a completely formed player. He knew everything about the game.
So was Duncan, remember?
There.
He
but he was
4 years
much
in college.
younger.
Yeah, relatively. But he was one of the last like full 4-year guys that was a huge star.
Yeah. So good for them. And I guess nobody paid any more attention to them, even after 5 championships. So yeah, let's not.
Yeah, I mean they got
hopes up.
respected more, like like we were talking about earlier about guys making All-Star games and stuff once they started winning. But yeah, I think people respected them as a basketball team. They were never the story, though. It's always been it's always about the Lakers, whatever.
All right. If we don't have anything more to add, this is all we've prepared for you in this episode of Serbian Corner. Be sure to listen to Peter and his co-host Ray on the Four Corners Nuggets podcast and fill DMs of the other 2 guys, on this panel with unpleasant messages until they finally get together and do a new episode of The Dig.
That's true. We never actually officially canceled the dig, did we? So
that's why I'm pushing you.
Yeah,
we have a new episode coming out.
That's right. Yeah,
just wait. Jeez,
we're just gonna steal yours and piece it together.
So thank you for
you guys
being
are like a rock band. Next album's in the works.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, they're in that.
Sign up for our Patreon right now.
They have like 7 years of work between 2 albums. So yeah, that's the create. You're like in India right now, like the Beatles.
You just made me hungry,
that's
man.
Smart.
Okay, so everybody, thank you for being masochistic enough to stay with us all the way to this sentence, and go Nuggets.